Good day, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of the Basic Transfer Pricing Philippines. We will discuss to you Revenue Memorandum Circular number 76-2020. This clarifies certain issues on the filing of BAR form number 1709 or the related party transactions RPT form and in its attachments as explained or required under Revenue Regulations 19-2020. Okay, so what is the rationale for the issuance of Revenue Regulations number 19-2020? No, it was issued to ensure that proper disclosure of related party transactions are made and that these transactions have been conducted at arm's length so as to protect the tax base. So ultimately, it is aimed at improving and strengthening the BAR's transfer pricing risk assessment and audit so that the BAR has ready information as to the related party transactions of related parties, of companies with related party transactions, no? So that it is easy for them to prepare transfer pricing risk assessment and audit as to whom are companies are to be subjected to transfer pricing audit. Okay, so with the information gathered in the RPT form and its attachment, the BAR will be able to perform transfer pricing risk assessment and make an informed decision at early stage. So, right at the face of the return, the BAR has the basis to assess whether or not to conduct a thorough review or audit of a particular entity, especially if the transactions are not material, or a thorough audit or review of a particular entity or transaction should be done. No? So, given the limited resources of the BAR, it will be able to focus its audit and commit its resources to most important transfer pricing issues. Why? Because it can gauge already the materiality of the transfer pricing case in the face of the 1709 return. How is BAR going to use the information contained in this new form? Will there be another RAMO for the guidance of revenue officers or tax examiners conducting transfer pricing audit? Because we already have the RAMO 1-2019, which is the transfer pricing audit guidelines. No? As aforestated, the objective of this new form is to improve the strength and strengthened BAR transfer pricing risk assessment and audit shall be used to monitor compliance with the transfer pricing documentation. And what is part of the transfer pricing documentation? It's the preparation of your transfer pricing analysis report. So in practice, the new form will give BAR initial assessment of the following. No? So these are the benefits derived from the BAR form 1709. Total gross amount of related party transactions, pair relationship type, no? Parent entities, it is provided in the information. No? Part 2 and the summary. No? Parent entities with joint control or significant influence over the entity, subsidiaries, associates, joint ventures in which the entity is a joint venture, management personnel of the entity or its parent, other related parties. The countries with whom the Philippines or the taxpayer has entered into related party transactions, as well as the details about the foreign related party entity. Oh, it is disclosed there. The BAR will still study and analyze the information in the form and transfer pricing documentation when selecting taxpayers to be subjected to tax investigation. Actually, there is no separate letter authority issued for transfer pricing audit. It is included in the regular letter authority issued to audit regular taxpayers. Examiners are expected to conduct a more detailed transfer pricing analysis of individual transactions and prices based on a functional analysis, taking into account the economically significant activities and responsibilities undertaken. It would not be difficult for the examiners and for the BAR to assess. Why? Because it is contained in one form, which is the BAR form 1709. Enforcement of international cooperation between treaty partners through the exchange of information with this new form. It will now be easier for the BIR to identify the countries to whom request for information shall be sent for verification purposes. Thus, the Bureau sees no reason at the moment to amend Revenue Memorandum Order Number 1-2019. No? Who will need to complete the new form? No? It should be completed by the taxpayers registered here in the Philippines with related party transactions, regardless of the amount and volume of transactions. Individuals who are considered related parties of a reporting company are also required to submit the related party transactions form in their individual capacities. No? When is the reporting requirement effective? No? So, effective governing calendar or fiscal year prior to the effectivity of RR 19-2020. It is required to be attached to the ITR since the law took effect on July 25, 2020. Then, it is now required to be submitted as an attachment to the annual income tax return for fiscal year ending March 31, 2020. Why? Because the March 31, 2020 should be filed on July 2020. No? Taxpayers who manually filed their annual income tax return and submitted the attachment for fiscal year ending March 31, 2020 prior to the effectivity of RR 19-2020 are still required to file and submit the related party transactions form and its attachments. No? So, attachment or annual income tax return for fiscal year ending March 31, 2020 are required by law to be submitted on or before July 30, 2020. So, the law took effect on July 25, 2020. So, it requires that fiscal year ending March 31, 2020, those companies are required to submit their related party transactions form and fill up BIR Form 1709. But considering that there is the pandemic, no, the deadline is extended. No? So that the taxpayers are given until September 30, 2020, but this is again extended. No? There is an extension to submit attachment. Is there a need to fill out again and resubmit the return with the attachment, or will a photocopy suffice? No, there is no need to resubmit the annual income tax return. No? So, attach only the photocopy. What is the manner of filing of the RPT form and attachment? No? Given the file size, the related party transactions form and its attachment shall be manually filed unless there is another revenue issuance mandating their filing electronically. So, right now, you have to file it manually. No? So, when is the deadline for submission of RPT? For manual filers, required attachment must be submitted together with the annual income tax return and other required attachment at the large taxpayers division revenue district office where the taxpayer is registered on or before the statutory due date or the deadline. No? So it already started on March, so it's continuous. No? So those companies ending April 2020, May 2020, June 2020, July, August, then they are now required to file this BIR Form 1709. For EFPS filers, the hard copy of RPT form and its required attachment must be submitted manually and stamp received at the large taxpayer division or RDO where the taxpayer is registered within 15 days from the statutory date or actual date of electronic filing of the AITR, whichever comes later. So if your deadline to file your annual income tax return is September 30, then you have 15 days until October 15 to submit your attachment, no? BIR Form 1709 and its attachments. If the RPT form will be accomplished and filed manually, are there printed copies of such form available in the BIR offices that taxpayers can use? So, it is downloadable from the BIR website as BIR Form number 1709. As proof that it was duly received by the BIR, the form must bear the stamp of the office with the date of actual receipt thereon and the signature of the receiving officer. So if manually prepared, the spaces provided for on the form may be inadequate considering there are a number of related parties in a multinational company. How can this be accomplished? RPT form, taxpayer may use additional sheets if necessary. If the space provided in the form is not enough, then the taxpayer will attach an additional sheets. Taxpayer may transpose the form into an Excel format, print a copy thereof and attach it with appropriate marking, Annex A and others, as an integral part of the RPT form. So the attachment should be indicated in the appropriate column, for example, Part 2 or Part 3 thereof with the notation C attached Annex A. So it is the proper way of doing or attaching some documents into your form. Are all taxpayers with RPTs really required to attach a TPD? Yes, all taxpayer-related party transactions are required to attach, regardless of the amount and volume of related party transactions. So the transfer pricing documentation should also include the date of creation or preparation so as to ensure its applicability to the RPTs conducted in the taxable year concerned. So what is the required transfer pricing documentation? As I told you, if you have prepared the transfer pricing documentation required under the 2017 OECD transfer pricing guidelines, then it's not hard for you or difficult for you to fill up this form 1709. Why? Because you have the ready source of information, accurate information. The BIR will also accept TPD prepared not later than filing due date of the tax return for the taxable year in which the transaction took place. So if you don't want to wait for the deadline, then you can file ahead, time. As long as the taxable period is ended, you can file immediately and not wait for the deadline. What the BIR requires is the TPD prepared prior to or at the time of the transaction or after the transaction, but not later than the date of filing of the tax return for the fiscal or calendar year which the transaction takes place. So requiring the submission of contemporaneous documentation ensures the integrity of the taxpayer's positions. Is it required that the TPD be updated yearly? Does BIR expect to have annual updated transfer pricing study? Whether or not the transfer pricing documentation has to be updated yearly, the following must be considered. If there are significant changes in the business model, then the factors or conditions considered in drafting the TPD and the nature of the RPTs, then TPD has to be updated. And if there are none, the old TP shall suffice. But for me, this transfer pricing documentation should be updated annually. Why? Because of the information. So if you try to look at the BIR Form 1709, it is on a yearly basis. Why? How about the amount of the transactions? It should be updated yearly, based on the information required to be disclosed. Because you cannot use the sales or the information provided in the previous year. It has a different amount. If the parent company has a transfer pricing documentation covering transaction with subsidiaries, can the subsidiary use that for their purpose? Can we attach the TPD of the other transacting related party or even the master file of the group? Yes, provided the taxpayer relied upon such TP documentation in determining the transfer prices. The local file is preferred since it provides a more detailed information relating to specific intercompany transactions. For the year filing, can we attach a past year transfer pricing documentation? If the transaction for which the past transfer pricing documentation was prepared is of the same type as the transaction undertaken in the taxable year concerned and was undertaken with the same related parties, and the taxpayer can prove that the same conditions which were made the basis for the past TPD are squarely applicable to the RPTs in the taxable year concerned. No? So, the relationship between the taxpayer and its related party are disclosed in that form. The conditions made or imposed between them, the transfer pricing methods used for the transaction, and the arm's length conditions. Can the taxpayer rely on Philippines Accounting Standards 24 disclosures in the audited financial statements when preparing the RPT form? PAS 24 as implemented in the notes to AFS typically does not mention name of its related party. So would it suffice to just transpose the notes to AFS to the RPT form without mentioning the names of its related party? I can answer it right away, no. No? It requires full disclosures, no? RR number 19-2020 requires full disclosure of all related party transactions. So, this is defined as transfer of resources, services, or obligations between reporting entity and related party. So, regardless of whether a price is charged, so it's not sufficient. So, disclosure of related party transactions in the notes to the financial statements requires more details to be disclosed in parts 2 and 3 of the RPT form. So the names should be disclosed of the related parties. Part 2 of the form must contain the following: registered name of the related party, address, country of tax resident, tax identification number, summary of related party transactions per nature of transactions, amount of tax paid in the foreign country on all types of income received abroad, and the amount of tax withheld on income payment to foreign related parties. So, withholding tax is very important. Declaration whether or not the taxpayer availed of benefits under the treaty to justify the application of tax exemption or preferential tax treatment. So, you have to apply for the tax treaty benefits. If monthly royalty payments, one-time transaction of service fees were made to the parent, no, in 2 separate disclosures shall be made since the nature of transactions are different. No? So, one for the total amount of these royalty payments for the year and another for the service fees. So, in addition, declaration of whether or not the foreign taxpayer availed of treaty benefit or preferential tax treatment or tax exemption as the case may be, and the amount of tax withheld on such income payment shall likewise be made. So in part 3, it must contain a more detailed disclosure of the substance of the recognized income or expenses as a result of these related party transactions. So the aggregate amount per transaction type and per relation type. So aggregate amount, meaning the amount, the actual. No? The outstanding balance if payment was made on installment basis. No? Terms, interest or non-interest bearing, and conditions, secured or unsecured. Provisions for doubtful debts and bad debt expense recognized during the taxable year. If a domestic corporation obtained loans from its subsidiary on different occasions, the aggregate amount of such loans, not per contract of loan, including its terms and conditions, outstanding balances, provisions for doubtful accounts, and recognized bad debts, if any, shall be disclosed. No? So that's why this is related party disclosures. So verification of the completeness and truthfulness of this disclosure shall be made upon the conduct of tax investigation. No? Enumeration of RPTs in RR 19-2020 is not exclusive. No? Secondment arrangement with cost recovery, charging cost sharing arrangement considered as related party transactions, should dividends and redemption of shares be included in the RPT forms. The enumeration of RPTs in RR 19-20 is not exclusive, but from the definition of RPT alone, it can be deduced that the intention is to include within the term all transactions with related parties that result in the transfer of resources, services, or obligation irrespective of their arrangement. So, everything is included. So, with cost recovery, cost sharing, risk charging, regardless of whether a price is charged, or dividends and redemption of shares between and among related parties. No? Either paid or payable, received or receivable, though not usually covered by TPD, should likewise be disclosed in the RPT form. So what supporting documents do we need to maintain for the dividend payments? So certification under oath by the corporate secretary or custodian or bank, depository account holders, broker dealers, stating in detail the legal and beneficial owners of all issued and outstanding shares as of record date, their corresponding subscription, date of acquisition, percentage of ownership, and the allocation of dividend. General information sheet for the year immediately preceding the date of declaration, the GIS, proof of payment of such dividends, bank certificate, telegraphic or wire transfer, and proof of payment of withholding tax. So if cost-sharing arrangements are considered as related party transactions, are these required to be informal written agreement, or will email exchanges suffices? Some cost-sharing arrangements are abusive RPTs. This makes necessary the submission of a formal written agreement contract to prove that these are legitimate expenses. Because there are times that they are very abusive. So there is a legitimate expenses, then the formal written agreement. Receipts, proof of payment are example. So to prove that the transaction is legitimate and necessary is one thing, and to prove the transaction has been conducted at arm's length is another thing. Why? Because it requires a different basis. Are all contracts required to be attached? What if voluminous and multiple contracts are involved? Voluminous. So all contracts are required to be attached regardless of volume. So in lieu of submission of hard copies of the required documents, the following procedure shall be strictly observed. So what are you going to do if the documents are voluminous? Scan the original copies of all transactions through scanning machine or device. Save the copies in PDF format and rename its file using the following format: register name of the taxpayer, type of document, taxable year. So in case of multiple contracts, the file name of its contract shall contain the following information: registered name of the related party, name of contract. All files shall then be stored in digital versatile disk recordable DVD-R. So label the DVD-R containing the soft copies of the required attachment in accordance with the format prescribed in Annex A hereof. And then submit the duly accomplished DVD-R to the BIR office where the taxpayer is duly registered, together with a sworn certification duly signed by the authorized representative of the taxpayer who has custody of the original documents or has been involved in the preparation and signing of the original documents, stating that the soft copies of the required attachment to the RPT form contained in the DVD-R are the complete and exact copies of the original thereof, which shall be made available during audit for verification purposes. So, for the meantime, you are submitting only the soft copy, but you have to keep or preserve the original copy because that would be submitted by you during tax audit. Would the taxpayer be required to attach all related party contracts entered into during the year, or only those contracts that remain in force upon filing of the ITR? Can representative contracts be attached if voluminous and repetitive? It must be emphasized that the contracts are the primary proofs of transactions. Principal and supplementary receipts only serve as supporting or corroborating evidence. So the contracts to be attached to the RPT form are those executed by the parties to substantiate the related party transactions in the taxable year concerned. So if the related parties executed a contract in the taxable year concerned but are intended for transactions to be entered in a subsequent year, then said contract is not required to be attached. On the other hand, contracts are executed in the previous year but are still enforceable and applicable to the RPTs in the taxable year concerned, then they have to be attached. In a normal business scale of goods transaction made by a non-resident head office to a Philippine subsidiary. There are required documentation aside from the state's sales, invoice, and delivery receipts. Since these are related party transactions, the same must be covered by a TPD and a contract of sale of goods or any equivalent genuine document must be submitted in support thereof. So, in addition to the sales invoice, delivery receipts, and proof of payment of the consideration. So, these are the requirements. What are the consequences for non-filing of RPT form and its required attachment? What if there is no actual transfer pricing documentation? Would it be okay to submit the RPT form without TP attachments? A penalty of not less than 1,000 but not more than 25,000 shall be imposed for failure to file the RPT form and its attachment due to reasonable cause and not to willful neglect. Pursuant to Section 50 of the Tax Code. So what is this Section 250? Failure to file certain information returns. So in the case of its failure to file an information return, statement or list or keep any record or supply any information required by this code or by the commissioner on the date prescribed therefore unless it is shown that such failure is due to reasonable cause and not to willful neglect. So there shall, upon notice and demand by the commissioner, be paid by the person failing to file, keep or supply the same 1,000 pesos for its failure, provided that the aggregate amount to be imposed for all such failures during a calendar year shall not exceed 25,000 pesos. So these are the maximum penalties. In case of repetition of such offense, the maximum of the penalty, 25,000 pesos prescribed, shall be imposed pursuant to Section 274 of the Tax Code. So what is Section 274? Penalty for second and subsequent offenses. Maximum of the penalty prescribed for the offenses shall be imposed. After receiving valid summons to produce the said attachment, the taxpayer still fails or neglect to produce the same. So the partner, president, general manager, branch manager, treasurer, officer in charge, and the employees responsible for the violation upon conviction be punished by a fine of not less than 5,000 pesos but not more than 10,000 pesos and suffer imprisonment of not less than 1 year but not more than 2 years pursuant to Section 266 of the Tax Code, which reads as follows. Failure to obey summons. So any person who being duly summoned to appear, to testify, or to appear and produce books of accounts, records, memoranda, or other papers, or to furnish information as required under the pertinent provision of this code, neglects to appear or to produce such books of accounts, records, memoranda, or other papers, or to furnish such information shall, upon conviction, be punished by a fine of not less than 5,000 but not more than 10,000 pesos and suffer imprisonment of not less than 1 year but not more than 2 years. So please confirm our understanding that the proof of payment of foreign taxes required as an attachment to the RPT forms pertains to foreign taxes paid by a Philippine taxpayer for its income earned abroad arising from a related party transaction. So, any taxes paid to a foreign country by a Philippine taxpayer must be declared in, and the proof of payment thereof must be attached to the RPT form so the BIR would be able to compute the correct amount of foreign taxes to be credited against the tax due for the taxable year concerned, provided said foreign taxes were not claimed as deductions during the year. Okay, so what if the deadline of such foreign taxes is after the deadline of the submission of the RPT form? What should be attached as supporting documents? If the taxpayer earned an income from its related party in a foreign country but has yet to pay the tax thereon after the filing of the RPT form, taxpayer still has to declare in the RPT form such income and indicates in the column for withholding taxes that it did not pay any tax thereon. So the taxpayer must attach the relevant contract, proof of receipt, of such income and a copy of the tax residency certificate issued by ETAD and submitted to the foreign country when it obtained treaty benefits. However, if the taxpayer paid the corresponding tax, the filing of the RPT form, the taxpayer must inform the examiner during audit of such fact and present the proof of payment thereof. So normally, it will be the related party abroad that will have a copy of the proof of payment of foreign taxes or ruling duly issued by the foreign tax authority. Assuming the related party does not want to share these documents with the Philippine entity, arguing that the BIR does not have a power over it, with the BIR insist on getting a copy of these documents. The Philippine taxpayer is typically the one who bears the income tax on any income derived abroad. So therefore, it has the right to know how much taxes did it have to pay the foreign country and the right to obtain any document related to the payment of foreign taxes, such as copy of the return filed for said income and or copy of the ruling issued by the foreign tax authority. The BIR has the right to obtain relevant information and documents from the Philippine taxpayer and may enforce all its rights to obtain the same within the bounds of the law. So this is without prejudice to the BIR enforcing its right to obtain said information pursuant to existing and effective tax treaty. How is a document showing payment of foreign taxes or copy of foreign ruling be acceptable as proof? To be acceptable as proof, the document showing payment of foreign taxes or copy of foreign ruling duly issued by a relevant foreign tax authority must be duly authenticated or apostillized. No? Apostillized. So, it will pass through the embassy, the Philippine embassy. Does Part 4F pertain only to tax treaty application involving related parties? TTRAs to be indicated in RPT form must be those filed with the International Tax Affairs Division relative to the income payments made by the Philippine taxpayers to its related parties. So it is imperative then for the tax examiners to coordinate with the ETAD as to the status of this pending TTRAs. Does the RR apply to non-stock and non-profit corporations or organizations? RR 19-2020 applies to corporations conducted for profit since they are more likely to make material misstatements in their financial statements and tax returns to evade the payment of the correct amount of taxes. Since non-stock non-profit is allowed to engage in activities conducted for profit without losing tax-exempt status for its not-for-profit activities, then it is likewise required to comply with RR 19-2020 if it has related party transactions. Has BIR considered data privacy rules? The tax code does not specifically ask for the data in the RPT form. Though not explicitly provided in RR 19-2020, there is an inherent responsibility for the revenue officers to use their right to obtain information in a rational manner. Section 270 of the Tax Code punishes unlawful divulgence to any person or making known in any other matter than may be provided by law information regarding the business, income, or estate of any taxpayer, the secrets, operation, style of work, or apparatus of any manufacturer or producer, or confidential information regarding the business of any taxpayer, knowledge of which was acquired by him in the discharge of his official duties. The revenue officers are therefore obligated to ensure the confidentiality of information acquired in the exercise of their powers and shall not make them available for public use. After the submission to the BIR, the relevant information and documentation are generally subject to confidential treatment by the BIR. Okay, so on the data privacy rules, it must be emphasized that the power of the Commissioner of Internal Revenue to obtain the necessary information to ascertain the correctness of any return or in determining the liability of any person for any internal revenue tax or in evaluating tax compliance under Section 5B of the Tax Code serves as an exception to the Data Privacy Act. So, exception po siya sa Data Privacy Act. Section 4E of the DPA expressly provides that the Act does not apply to information necessary in order to carry out the functions of public authority, which includes the processing of personal data for the performance of law enforcement and regulatory agencies of their constitutionally and statutorily mandated functions. Though the tax code does not ask for the data in the RPT form, the Secretary of Finance is not prohibited from issuing rules and regulations to mandate the disclosure and submission thereof. Sections 244 and 255 of the Tax Code states that the Secretary of Finance, upon recommendation of the Commissioner, shall promulgate all needful rules and regulations for the effective enforcement of the provisions of the Tax Code, which shall contain provisions specifying, prescribing, or defining the manner in which tax returns, information, and report shall be prepared and reported, and the tax collected and paid, as well as the conditions under which evidence of payment shall be furnished the taxpayer, and the preparation and publication of tax statistics, among others. No? So finally, as mentioned in RR number 19-2020, prescribing the use of RPT form was made in relation to Section 50 of the Tax Code. Empowers the Commissioner to distribute a portion or allocate gross income or deductions between or among related parties, trade or business, if it is necessary in order to prevent evasion of taxes or clearly reflect income of any such organization, trade, or business. So, banks are governed by bank secrecy law. Will this be an acceptable legal basis not to submit the required documents? The following are the prohibited acts under Republic Act number 1405 or the Law on Secrecy on Bank Deposits. No? So, examination inquiry looking into all deposits of whatever nature with banks or banking institution in the Philippines, including investment in bonds issued by the government, by any person, government official, or office. Disclosure by any official or employee of any bank institution to any authorized person of any information concerning said deposit. No? That is Section 3, Public Act number 1405. So, in requiring the submission of BIR Form number 1709 and its required attachment, the BIR is not examining, inquiring, or looking into the deposits of whatever nature with banks or banking institutions in the Philippines of any person or of the bank itself. Revenue Regulations 19-2020 only requires the banks to fully disclose the related party transactions and to prove that the same were conducted at arm's length. No? So, nothing in the said RR requires submission of bank statements. Nonetheless, there are ways to maintain secrecy or confidentiality of said deposit or any information concerning said deposit. So, in case it is inevitably part or included in the required documents like redaction and masking, therefore, the bank secrecy law cannot be used to justify the non-submission of the required documents. All Internal Revenue officers, employees, others concerned are enjoined to give this circular the widest dissemination and publicity possible. And this is the example of the CD that you are going to scan all the attachments and then record it in the CD and then submit it to the BIR. So BIR for number 1709 and its attachment, name and TIN of the taxpayer, the period covered, the number of files, and then signature over printed name of authorized representative. So that is the information contained in the DVD that you are going to submit to the BIR. So this Revenue Memorandum Circular is just a clarification of the Revenue Regulations 19-2020 to aid us in the submission and the procedural guidelines of this BIR Form 1709. So with this, I would like to say thank you and good day.